Joining us on stage, Ayush Anand, Head of Product at Plivo, Dushyant Garg, Strategy and Growth Lead at Nugget, Aman Kumar, AI Engineering Leader at Nurix, and Abhishek Kushaba, Co-founder at Karta. Let us welcome with a huge round of applause.
First of all, thank you to everybody in the auditorium for staying back. It's been a long day. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. So once again, thanks for everybody staying back. It's been a long day. Quick check: how many of you are building with voice AI in this room? I think there are quite a few. Good to see. Thanks for the introduction. But I will just do a quick introduction of all the panelists. So I'm joined by Aman from Nurix. He's a senior AI engineering leader focused on building scalable voice AI products. During his career, he has led end-to-end products, engineering, and delivery. And we're just talking backstage. The first voice bot, sort of voice bot that Aman worked on was in 2019 or 2020. It was at a company where I was also working. Obviously, our paths didn't cross there, uh, but just to see how technology can change, right? I'm also joined by Dushyant. He leads strategy and growth at Nugget by Zomato. I'm sure Zomato needs no introduction. But Nugget by Zomato is a conversational AI platform for enterprises that delivers measurable business outcomes. Thanks, Dushyant. And finally, we have Abhishek Kushwaha. He's the co-founder at Karta. Karta automates complex fintech inbound support operations for companies like PhonePe, Pine Labs, and Vyapar. He has he's an alum of IT Bombay, and he has more than 15 years of experience across engineering and product. We'll get to the questions. We'll start with Aman, and we'll go around the group. And I think all of these three companies started in last 15, 18 months or 2 years, right? So AI native companies. My first question is, what did your first version actually look like? And when you reached the production stage, what was the gap? How did you identify it? Walk us through the gap between the demo and the production. What did it feel like? What were the challenges? So Aman, will start with
Yeah.
you.
Hello. Yeah. So I think when our first version came out, I think it was in a very controlled environment. So in demo, typically what you'll see, the user who's interacting with the AI agent speaks clearly. There's no background noise. They know what they are demoing, right? So there won't be any interruption that you'll see. And every step in the pipeline, right? Voice AI typically has like a STT, LM, and TTS pipeline. So every step in the pipeline behaves as it is expected. Uh, it is when you hit the production, you meet with the reality. And what will you see is like there'll be background noise, people will be interrupting the agent, people will be switching the language mid sentence, uh, and sometimes they will not finish their query itself. So all these challenges come, and in fact, if you ask me, now I see that voice AI actually is more orchestration of all these layers than just choosing the best model out there. So the biggest lesson learned was voice AI is not a model choice. It's rather orchestrating the whole interaction loop well, right? Where you have to deal with the speech synthesis, the reasoning, the routing, the fallback. All this orchestration has to go right. So getting an answer was never a hard part with respect to the LLMs that are available, but it was like getting the accurate answer fast enough which still feels conversational. So, so demo proves possibility, if you ask me, but actually production tests the resilience of the system.
Thanks. Dushyant, moving to you. Obviously, your role also involves dealing with a lot of customers, right? So apart from what Aman has described, what was your experience moving from demo to actual implementation, and what were the challenges that you maybe didn't foresee or which were harder than you expected?
Sure. Yash. So I'll take a step back, and I would say this is like journey from invention of a technology to that becoming a mainstream function, right? A very interesting metaphor that I recently read was around electricity. That back in 1890s, when it was discovered, uh, European textile mills were apparently the first one to adopt it, and for good 30-35 years, there was almost zero bump in production in textile GDP in anything, right? Something happened in 1925. What? Assembly lines came into picture. Job descriptions were made in a way that people were hired to operate machines, and then machines were meant to do the core job, that is textile production, right? Similarly, if you see 6 months down the line, what was happening, that voice bots, voice AI as a technology is used to replace humans in the call centers, BPOs, KPOs. But let's ask why KPOs exist. Knowledge process outsourcing. Why do I have outsourced? Because it's not a part of my core activity. With voice AI and conversational AI as a technology, all of this can be brought as a core activity. I'll give you a very basic example, right? There have been three major eras in last 15 years. One is pre-demonetization, then demonetization to COVID, and then post-COVID. Pre-monetization, entire credit underwriting was civil based. Demonetization to COVID, cash flow underwriting came into the picture, and post-COVID, at least 40% of underwriting is now cash flow based. For the last 6 months, conversational underwriting is becoming a mainstream, and that is where Bajaj Finserv recently mentioned that they have done 1600 odd crores basis conversational AI. That is how this technology becomes a part of your core technology. We are seeing, so BFSI, I mean, I'm sure Abhishek can speak a lot more, but across sectors, we know we are running campaigns for consumer durables. We know that South India starts their day 45 minutes early compared to North India. And this is such a great insight for that company that no CRM could have captured, right? And that is how your technology, which is good latency things and everything, and obviously from demo to production, your major culprits are this: word error rate, latency, noising, everything, right? But, and I'm sure engineers in this room will be solving that like day and night. 6 months down the line, most of this would be solved. But that stage where refrigeration as a technology makes Coca-Cola like a $500 billion company, that is where we want to play, and that sort of impact we want to figure out.
Fantastic insights. I never thought I will hear textile and AI so together, but yeah, moving on to Abhishek. Right, same question for you. I think you must have created a demo or a demo version of your product. Obviously, you are a co-founder as well. So, what was that journey for you?
From demo to production, one major change was hard coding to becoming a feature. So for a demo, you hard code most of the things. You hard code your pipelines and you just give the demo. And the odd part with the demos is most of the time they fail at the right time. When you are in the boardrooms, when you are in the
Abhishek, I think you need to hold your mic closer.
hello, yeah. So with the demos I mentioned, the first thing which changed from demo to production is hard coding. From hard coding, it became a features, and with the demos, it works very fine in your office, but when you go to the customer office, it starts to fail. So we have seen both the cases, and with the voice AI, as Aman rightly mentioned, it is not just about one model that we are developing. It is about orchestration, and there are so many things that can fail. And STT can fail, then LLM cannot do anything, and LLM can fail, TTS cannot do anything, and in the end TTS can fail, or your anything else can, interruption can fail. So we have seen a lot of issues in production, because in demos we control those things in production, but we cannot focus on everything on this. We cannot go and start building STT if it is bad. We cannot go start building LLM if it is bad. We cannot go start building TTS if it is bad. There are other components also uh, which complicates this orchestration, and we have to pick, at least for a startup like us, small startups, we have to pick those issues which we can solve at our scale and which will bring the maximum output. Two things we have seen, since we primarily focus on the inbound voice AI agent where customer is calling us. One, building the context layer for the whole of the business, because for an outbound call you already know the intent, you have what why you are calling for, and you already have a script. But for an inbound, uh, it's the customer which will tell what is the problem, and it could be 400 odd reasons for why they are calling. So building that context in chat, you don't have the problem of latency, but in voice you have to get that context in very limited time. And second, in interruption for the experience, if you have solved these two things in the inbound, you are more sorted, because in the outbound it is you who have called and you have to grab the attention of the user. In the inbound it is the customer who has called. No matter what you do, he will listen to you. We have seen 15 minutes call, 20 minutes call going, and customer's problem was solved. He was so happy and he gave 5 star on those calls.
I think that's an important distinction. What I've also seen is a lot of outbound calls. I mean, both are hard problems, but I feel solving for inbound use cases is going to be that final frontier which solves a lot of production issues, because a lot of outbound use cases are still like, hey, qualify this lead and stuff like that. So that's a great insight. On a related note, for folks who are not familiar, voice AI, while it's an agent listening to you and speaking out, it has a very complex stack behind the scene, right? If you're built already, you would know. So there is obviously telephony or the interface, and then there is an STT, there's a LLM, there are a bunch of other components like VAD and whatnot, right? Where do you see most amount of challenge, and what was deceptively hard? Like you assume that, hey, this will definitely work, let me work on other stuff, right? What was that for you? We'll start with Aman on that, and we'll go in the same order.
Yeah, so I think the initial portion of my last answer also has this hint. We will get the labs, we'll get the models for the components. So essentially, if you look at it on paper from an engine mindset, everything looks modular. Like you'll get STT, you'll get LM, you'll get TTS, maybe a workflow engine. Uh, it is in production where these boundaries, right, actually become the failure point. Okay, so if you look at it, production typically breaks at these three, four things. One is the latency, right? So in voice AI, every extra 200 millisecond in the whole pipeline, right, matters, right? That's one. Second, it's the turn taking or turn handling, which is like interruption handling, people taking pauses, the false end of speech, right, detection, the barge in handling, and the third one is the input messiness, right? So when you hit production, you'll real world environments, you'll see noises coming, people are traveling in traffic, they are in their car speaker, then you'll see people mixing or switching the language mid sentence, right? People are not saying the full complete queries, right? Because and they are maybe in a crowded space, right? So these are the challenges that comes, and these are the hard problems, right, to solve. So this is where the real engineering comes into play, right? How are you handling these scenarios, right? Well, have you orchestrated well your fallbacks? Have you orchestrated well your responses? Because rest of the things comes as commodities. These model players are always there and keep on coming better models. But are you able to orchestrate this whole scenario better or not? Right? This is where the real challenges come, and we invest in this a lot, right? And the observability of these, because if you run in production and at scale, unless you have the observability of how things are happening at each layer, right, you won't be able to improve. You won't. So there's a old saying, right? Unless you can measure things, you cannot improve things. So this is where the real work comes into picture, at least for the voice AI perspective.
Absolutely. Same question, Dushyant.
Uh, I'll speak for Nugget in this case rather than in general. Uh, Working on an infra layer, SCT, TTS, LLM, the likes of it is majorly a problem statement that involves two functions: capital and talent, right? Uh, Talent, I would say, our founder Dipender Goyal has a certain reputation of attracting talent, and capital. I mean, again, Eternal's balance sheet is a public document, so making these models is more of a question of choice, that do we want to make them or not. Very crisp answer, I believe. I mean, something on exactly on the lines of what Aman also said, that as long as the likes of Sarvam, Nani, Deepgram, Cartesia 11 Labs are doing their job well in terms of breaking the ceilings as well as not abusing the pricing, uh, player, players like Nurix, Karta, Nugget, who exist at an application layer, have a far more complicated problems to solve. I would still prefer that. Is there some way that when I'm between my two client meetings, can I have a delta of 100 odd variations in which, let's say, the 97th variation brings a lot more value for the client compared to me optimizing for 10 millisecond latency, which otherwise even 11 labs would have done 3 weeks down the line, right? So, yeah, that's my take.
Sure, sure. Abhishek, same question for you.
Mm, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is like, obviously the voice AI stack behind the scene, right? It has multiple things happening, and you have to do that round trip in like less than a second, and that's the challenging bit. So there is telephony, and then you need to have that
Got
move
it,
to your
got it.
server, STT, LLM, VAT, TTS, and round trip back to the user, right? And then there is telephone network, which is hard to measure. So what was for you the most deceptively hard problem to solve, where you assume that hey, this should be easy, and you figured out, okay, oh, this was much harder than I anticipated.
Okay. So one thing is clear, since technology has evolved, latency in the current pipeline is not an issue anymore. People are talking to AI, they are not able to differentiate, and uh, when you start building, you might have a higher latency, but once you optimize, you will get within the acceptable limits. The major problems comes which we see is top down. It's the top down. TTS never creates a problem. uh, it's the STT which is not able to recognize because it does not have the context. STTs are not context aware, and then it's the context layer. Even if the STT got the recognition right, your LLM worked, but you have not built the right context for the AI to respond or to execute, it will start hallucinating. So these top two are the major ones, and interruption is the experience. If you do not want the user to frustrate, you do not want your user to frustrate, you have to have control over the experience. So interruption handling is the one thing. uh, I would if you ask me if I am going to build my own TTS, no, I will never. I will only develop it just to make my cost go down, and that stage will come after 5 years. LLM never, maybe SLM sometime. STT might be at some stage because I want to be focused on the BFSI, and if I train just STT for the one industry, it might work better. But interruption and context management, we are investing heavily.
On a related note, as we talked about, there are multiple layers in between, and you said that, and that's a great point. Like you don't want to build, let's say, TTS, right? So is there a framework that you follow that hey, this I don't want to build, this I definitely want to build? Like, is there a framework that you follow, and is this just commercial or investment, or is it like hey, we don't want to get into this?
It's the standard framework. What is the solved problem? You do not want to reinvent the wheel. 11 Labs is doing well done. Good job in TTS, and since with volumes they are giving the discounts. So we are sorted there. It's not a burning problem. What is a burning problem? Interruption, context, and then STT.
Got it.
If they are sorted, downstream is already sorted.
Got it. I will take the same question to both of you. So, Dushyant, like as a business person, again, in the whole stack, let's say you have to optimize, is there a framework that you follow that, hey, this is going to take a lot of time, but maybe it's good for us strategically, right? Right. So is there a framework that Nugget follows? Like, hey, these are the layers we are good of outsourcing, and these are the layers that we definitely want to build.
We have a very top down approach to it. So anything and everything that will make our client's life better, that is always a P0. So just quick example, right? If I would prioritize making a better observability or analytics dashboard, right, that something like Aman said, I would prefer making a AI FD maybe that can run those AB experiments continuously and come up with a better insight. Why? Because that is something that does not exist right now, but these fundamental things, they exist, and it will be a catch up game. It will always, like, at least for a foreseeable period of time, it will be a catch up game. And it's good not to get into catch up games, at least when your industry is at such a nascent stage. So that is.
Thanks. Yeah. Aman, same question.
Okay, so I think what I've seen from experience, most teams end up building it hybrid, right? Uh, I think rarely I've seen it's the first right choice to build these big models yourself, right? So I would suggest, of course, because we want to just get started, right? I want to get that speed. I think rather instead of building from reinventing this whole cycle, it's better to just get started with these foundational models, and because of course they'll be good at reasoning and all, but of course you'll be at a disadvantage of say the cost, the latency, and maybe some corner case performance. But at least you'll be able to get started well and get started fast. Uh, Unless you think that you have specific use case advantage and you'll be able to bring that scale, I don't think really people shouldn't try to invest in that model, because there are thousands of engineers working right in these big companies and smart talented people. So as Dushyant said, right, it would really be a catching up game. So instead of that, people should focus on building the rest of the orchestration pipeline well, getting your fallbacks, getting your retries, getting your recovery and failures, right, and observability, right? Because I think the winning architecture is rarely pure build versus pure buy. It's the optionality. I would rather suggest people to build that abstraction layer, right, where they'll be able to switch tomorrow for better performance or low cost or low latency, whatever makes sense, right? So I think this is where people should invest right now, given as Dushan said, the technology at the very nascent stage, and given a lot of data is going back to these foundational model providers from the world, where people and industries are invested, I'm very sure they'll be able to come up with better and better models.
Fantastic. Quick time check. I think we'll take one more question and then we'll open up for Q&A for the audience. This is not necessarily voice AI. It can be anything related to AI. What's one thing that you believe that most people in your industry have not accepted, but you feel strongly that, hey, this is one change. In general, it may be in your industry or maybe with just general AI tools, coding tools, or LLMs, which you feel strongly that things are changing there at a faster rate than people believe or accept. Any thoughts on that?
Okay, so this is my personal opinion, how I see things. Okay, so as I interact with a lot of clients, they always come with, "Hey, I want a human-like voice, a human-like voice." I see why it has stemmed out. They want a human-like voice. They don't want the good completion and containment rate of the task that the AI was supposed to do. They want more human-like, at least in the voice AI. And I can relate personally it to my experience why. So as I was building for POC for Revigo back in 2019, I was using Google ASR. I used to work at Nulati Cloud Communications. So I used to detect the end of speech. I used to take that file. I used to send it to the ASR engine of Google. It used to give me back the transcript. Then I used to plug it into the dialog flow, and then from dialog flow it used to come. It used to give me the response, and then I used to send it back to Plivo, to Poly, AWS Poly, to give me back the file of TTS that I need to play back. So the whole pipeline used to take a few seconds, right? And that too, even after doing that, the voices were not natural that time. So it was all robotic, right? And whatever initial systems that were built around it, they failed, right? And in fact, before the invent of the Gen AI for public, right, that large scale, I was associated with LOI, and we were doing NLP based chatbots, right? But because of that robotic tone of the conversation, be it over voice or not, right? I see the end consumers who were consuming these services. They were like, "Hey, I'm talking to a bot. I don't want to get involved with it." Just and there was this fixed line everyone used to type: "Just patch me to a human agent, forward me to a human agent," and it's like a quick human in the loop. I'll do. And because of this experience over the last maybe 5 years or so, before the generative AI start coming in the mainstream line, uh, people have that, right, understanding and experience of what bot is. So now the hard part I feel is, because of lot of marketing that has gone into it and people have seen great demos, the customers are like, hey, I want human like, because I know if my customers are gonna hear a non-human like voice, they're gonna drop, they're gonna not entertain. And that is one. And second, it's generative AI, so there's gonna be a few percentages of, right, in terms of accuracy drops that will come, right, like minute as well, 1%, let's suppose. But they're like, hey, this generative AI is supposed to be intelligent. How can it not be intelligent even at 1%? Has to be 100% accurate all the time. And to be honest, we are dealing with non-deterministic system, and they want deterministic answers. So this is something that I think the industry and the public in general has to accept, and I think they'll accept in coming years. And then maybe the human-like voice won't matter anymore once they accept.
Fantastic. Dushyant, same question for you.
Actually, couple of them, right? First is on the business side of things. If you see over last 30, 40 years, whenever there has been a platform shift, ERPs came, software came, personal computers were there, mainframes came, internet was there. Every shift has created few monumental companies such as Salesforce, ServiceNow, Workday, Cisco, etc., etc. Right? If you track their service revenue as a percentage of total revenue, you would see they started 35-40%, and right now they are at 7-8%. Some are at 11-12% as well. Most of the AI companies, however, are at 4 to 5%. Why? Very simple, because we are living in a VC world. If you do not have PLG margins, you get a multiple of 2. If you are a PLG, you get multiple of 12. The problem is that really doesn't help the end customers. Enterprises, so you have FDs, perfect. We were discussing this backstage, right? FDs will build exactly what your clients want, but the problem is client do not know what they want, what will actually solve their problem. Latency reduction will not solve their problem, word error rate will not solve their problem. Finally, what will solve? If I'm simply able to increase my reach out to the leads within the lead decay period, automatically my 10x conversion shots up, which is a scalability problem that could have been solved with a 20-year-old technology, right? So first is this around PLG versus service. Forget about PLG, like hardcore services. Second is I mean, people might kill me for this, but I don't think TTS as an API might exist even 1 year down the line. Right now, your S2S models are not in a state where they are very scalable and configurable. But eventually, obviously, the way technology has been evolving, seems like that might be the future, because you can create, we have seen Nvidia has launched persona plex, so by just prompt you can manipulate the acoustic quality of the voice. So if there is a old age person, you can speak to them in a tempo of 0.97, but a teenager you can speak in a tempo of 1.01 without creating two agents, right? So these sort of abilities are empowered by SOS. So TTS, not sure how much valuable it might be. And yeah, I guess I'm probably these two.
I think that's a bold claim, and I think S2S can be its own panel discussion itself. Maybe we'll do it next time. Moving on finally to Abhishek, before we take questions from the audience. Same question.
So different companies and different people are at different stages of accepting what could be the future. I have two portfolio companies as my customer, and uh, people at those two companies are totally different. One accepts the concept of FD. They understand in AI world FD is required. Other doesn't accept that it automates everything. Why do we need FD? uh, for one of the customer understand that it involves many components and so the pricing. Other customer just say मेरा human का cost इतना है मुझे 1/3 चाहिए और कुछ नहीं पता मुझे. So there are different types of peoples, and uh, जो थोड़े मतलब लीडरशिप रोल पे हैं एंड फार फ्रॉम एआई दे से लाइक ये सो वन इन वन ऑफ द कन्वर्सेशन दे से अरे हमने तो अपना रिकॉर्डिंग तुमको दे दिया था तुम अपनी एआई में डालो सब ट्रेन हो जाएगा उसको पता चल जाएगा उसका वॉइस कैसा है उसका बोलने का तरीका कैसा है वो कब पॉज लेता है कब लेता है. हमने कहा सर ऐसे नहीं चलता वो डिफरेंट प्रोसीजर है. तो एंड देयर आर अदर वो सारे द प्रोक्योरमेंट गाइड वेंट इनटू डिस्कशन की अच्छा तुम्हारा एस का कॉम्पोनेंट इतना पैसा लेगा टीटीएस इतना लेगा अच्छा ये कॉस्ट तुम्हें बैठ रही है थोड़ा सा कहीं से एडजस्ट करो हो जाएगा. द प्रोक्योरमेंट गाय इवन अंडरस्टैंड द components and the things, and at other company the leadership doesn't understand how it works. So there are different expectation different types of people, and we have to deal with all.
Yeah, I think selling software in India has been a challenge, and I think will be a challenge. But that's the challenging bit we have to solve.
It's the
That-
ROI.
yes,
Earning
exactly.
$1 is much easier than earning 1 rupees.
True. We'll open up for few audience questions. Anybody?
So with a lot of voice to voice models coming in with real time 1.5 with OpenAI, where tool calling and which can be done bi-directional mid conversation. One agent is listening, the other one is having the conversation. Where the need for STT and TTS is like going to go so much lower. Obviously, the initially the cost will be high, but eventually that will also come down. Where do you see this voice to voice conversations getting plugged in, and the rest of the world is like trying to figure out STT and TTS?
So it depends on the market. If it is a US, it makes sense. If it is India, it is hard to say because in India the landed cost of any but wherever you are deploying the voice AI, humans are already working there. So now the landed cost will be calculated. In India, it is very low. So the gap is very low for you to play. But for an example, for a US company, a landed cost in rupees for any person who is handling their voice customer support is around 40 to 50 rupees and even higher. So you have a large margin. In India, it is 6 rupees. Where will you go from there? Per minute.
And but of course, because even these models are at an initial stage and they're not performing, like we have done some benchmarking. So right now it is not being deployed, but in future, of course, it depends on how good they become. Because at times we see customers where they don't like the stock voice, and that is just for this purpose we have to deploy this STT, LLM, and TTS pipeline, where we actually clone their agent, their actual human representative voice of their choice. So these configurability is not there right now, and that is why it's not adaptive. But it's early stages, like early few years of this whole technology. So I think things will change.
Yeah, great panel. We're actually not a voice AI startup. We're actually a consumer AI startup. I had a question in terms of the cost effectiveness because every single line that goes in, like you guys mentioned, it goes through three LLMs, TTS and STT, uh, and then the cost of building for Indian accents and Indian, the voice changes every 100 kilometers or so. So for an Indian startup where, like he said, earning 1 rupee is more difficult than earning $1, so it's a very razor thin margin that voice probably is playing with. So for a consumer AI startup, what would you suggest is is voice a cost-effective way to go about for India startups, not India for the world, but for Indian markets? And how do you foresee the costs coming down in the near future in terms of voice AI?
Yes, so okay, quick thing, right? Before this, I guess a session was taken by Vishnu. He's a friend from Razorpay. He leads strategy there, right? He said even so, Zomato also has this. You can order food on voice, right? There's a voice bot. Cool feature. Will it scale up? Not really. Very simple reason. CAC doesn't make sense, right? Uh, rather than thinking in a fancy terms, if you're a consumer AI company, right, not a consumer tech company, you will either be using AI for customer acquisition or you will be using it for customer experience. If voice AI is a fundamental part of your customer experience, then the only option you have is charge in terms of tokens, because that is a recursively used product. But if it is a customer acquisition, then the math is simple. I mean, it's your typical CAC LTV calculation. How the cost will go in terms of the voice stack and everything, there are a lot of good experiments that are happening, a lot of caching that is happening. Let's say even cost structure typically in India are somewhat around 2.5 3 rupees per minute, right? I'm saying even if it goes 1.5 1 rupee or whatsoever, right? Still your it will not monumentally change anything from a CAC standpoint, right? If it again back to that framework, if it's experience token, if it is CAC, then make sense it out of your LTV.
It all depends on if your application of voice AI is a revenue function or a cost function.
And one thing that at least I have seen, and we have a host of customers who work in this space. So if you are primarily focusing on things like outbound, for example, let's say you want to automate certain operations for a real estate company, you are competing against. So if basically, I think what Dushyant is also adhering to, like if you are trying to reduce the cost, you have to understand that it's always going to be a downward hill towards a low margin product. I think if you can figure out ways you can maximize revenue or attract new revenue, I think that's where I have seen our customers who have been able to charge higher per minute for customers. So these are the two set of customers we see. One who are always under this margin pressure, right? And both are okay. I think one has scale but low margin. I don't think there's a great area which has scale and margin both. If that was one, I mean, everybody will be building there. That's right. So I think that is the reality of the market. I think if you can solve the harder problems, that's where you can make more money, and businesses are ready to pay higher and higher for that. So I think that's what we have seen on Plivo.
And I think on top of that, of course, today cost seems to be a problem. But if you look at the way the pattern has been with every upcoming newer models, right, the price has actually gone maybe 1/10, 1/5 of every time. So in a few years, if you have acquired good customers and good volume and good average call handling time, I think you'll be making money. And India, I think, and that's why I think a lot of companies are bullish on India because it's a good market to have to be in. Maybe not you won't make profits right now, but eventually will.
Hey panel, similar question to Indian market. Like previously, we had the problem of barging in, right, with voice agents or voice pipelines, where the customer used to or a receiver used to interrupt an voice agent, and the context used to get missed. I think that is solved, but now we have the problem of that India is not a quiet place like foreign countries like Europe or US, and you have that problem of noise in the background. Like let's suppose I'm traveling in a train and I obviously have vendors nearby, passengers talking. So how are you folks like tackling that problem currently? Is this an active problem? Are there any innovations going around in house, and not talking about vendors, LLM vendors, if possible?
Okay, so I'll just give my 2 cents here. I think, in fact, if you look at it, the traditional telephony providers, right, including the new age ones like Plivo, they already have that that layer which cancels the background noise, and then they stream this audio to us, right? So it is being done at that layer, and then at the next layer, which is our orchestration, there as well we deploy models to cancel on the background noise and in fact boost the volume as well, or improve the audio quality. So I think there are experiments also going on, and there have been already these problems at to a particular level solved. Uh, I would rather say the some of the problems it's not noise. It's like me and Ayush talking to each other, and then I'm also grabbing a phone. So when Ayush says something, it actually captures it, and AI thinks it's a user. I think this is the problem. Next problem that I see that needs to be solved. We are actively engaged in that to solve this problem. But noise to a level is I see is solved, and can continue to be solved. I think very easily.
And if I may just add, I think even the open source models, I think are of decent quality, and there are models just for noise cancellation, right? There are many such models. Again, these are all probabilistic models, so there are some cases where it will cancel so much noise that your STT actually your transcription goes off. But I think at a reasonable price point as well, I think this is a solved problem. Like how 15 months back, let's say your phone rings in the backend and the agent gets disrupted. Those cases are solved for. I think it's what Aman is saying, like two people talking and then there is a voice agent. It messes up. But I think that will be solved. I think that's not the hardest problem, right? But yeah, that's what I see on our side, and a lot of providers such as ourselves, the orchestration layer itself are doing that, so that there's not one more layer, and the developers can actually work on the pipeline, which is the STT, LLM, and TTS. So
So I mean, this is like a three-leg problem. One is, of course, there is a noise and everything. Second is India operates on 8 hertz and STTs are trained on 16 hertz. And the third is code switching, right? When you combine these all three, and noise be I'm talking about, if you talk about Matunga in Mumbai, that city operates at the 80 decibels of ambient noise. Delhi NCR operates at the 60-65 decibels ambient noise, and humans speak at a 65-70 decibels. So in concurrence, you are getting 100 plus decibels, out of which majority you have to eliminate. So when you combine these three, your word error rate goes, let's say if it was 5%, it shoots up to 30-35%. Now, one quick example that how we have solved it. So I'm assuming Discord, most of engineers, so you might have used Discord some point in time. And if you have been user of Discord, you will realize that it is one of the most noisy environment, because there is a in-game sound, there is a ambient sound, and then there is a multiplayer person also speaking. But still, you are able to hear the footsteps of the person who is coming, right? So we built something on those lines. We bought few things on those lines, few IP side. Still, Indian ambient noises are still not solved to that level where we are 100% confidence that WER can be constrained within 3 to 4%. So still, I mean, slightly.
Abhishek, anything on noise cancellation?
No, so as I mentioned, there are many components, and noise cancellation we do, but for the second part, two speaker talking, we haven't done anything because it's the priority game. 90% of my calls or 95% of my calls do not fails because of this. So my focus is somewhere else.
Uh, I think we'll take two more questions. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so I have one question regarding that. The agents, voice agents, are two types. One is workflow based agents like customer support and those things. And then there are creative agents who are doing sales call, like when to upsell a product to a customer and those things. So I've been working with the Fortune 100 company for the sales stuff only, building sales agent. And I see one of the major problem, like TTS, these things are still fine up to some extent, but they are not able to include the business logic on how to actually understand the customer's mindset at that time and one product to upsell. So when we went to them and asked like, hey, like we are doing the prompting and everything, they said like, okay, that is fine, but how would you guys include my salesperson logic, because they understand the person voice, what they have come to buy, and then they try to upsell the products, like more upselling. What, so just for example, like if they have come to buy a refrigerator, what to upsell as a filter, like because based on the customer's like mindset or the speech. So what do you guys think on that one, like how we can actually improve and build these creative voice agents who are meant for this sales, not workflow based, which does not have a proper rule book, but it has to think on the fly, and it can't reason also on the fly, then it will a long latency. So how do you guys, what is your guys opinion on building these creative agents?
So, okay, I'll just add a few points here on this. I'll then leave it up for my friends here. So, I think it's the realm of the context engineering, okay, where you have to deal with the right prompts, the right business logic, and a lot of context, right? If you ask me personally, I've been working on delivering some of the agents which are salesy. For example, a lot of edtech customers we have, right? Where I'll give you the name, like we have Scalar Technology, we have College Vidya. So where it's majorly telecounseling, right? And we have been able to get this done, and we have been scaling with them and ramping up more and more dialing outs and leads. So it's a game of orchestrating this. Of course, it's something not that comes first in your mind when you start building voice agents, but when you actually go into customer calls and see, oh, uh, every call that it dials, right? It's the same persona of the AI that is speaking to this person and this person, this person, and then you, when you do the QC of these kind of, right, you'll see, oh, it's all robotic, right? So how would one differentiate, right, from one person's call to other person's call, and how it is more personalized to me? It's a lot of context engineering goes into it. Some of the data that we fetch from other system to understand that person, that particular lead, and then there is also some kind of pipeline. So I'll just give you an example that you can try out maybe. For example, you just get a lead, and what you'll do is maybe you'll do a first call to understand that persona, to where this guy is working, where is he working, how many people are in there, his life. Maybe do spin up an agent, go to his LinkedIn profile and Facebook, figure out what kind of person is this, right? Put all that context in the conversation. You know the personality of this person. You might be able to know the pain point of this person, and maybe tune your agent, right, to talk through those. This is one way to go about it.
Yeah. So sales is an art. सबको नहीं आती. And that's how. That's why if you just write a prompt for AI to sell, it won't be able to sell. How can you innovate there? You learn from your best salesperson. So what we have built for these salesy pitches, we have built a pipeline to build the script for the AI and the context, as Aman mentioned. We take call recordings of the best sales calls from their uh, uh, past calls, which human has done from their best humans, and extract information, not the, I would say, uh, normal information, but from the perspective information. Just like we were doing a building a sales call for a gold. How will you sell the gold? Sir, gold ले लो आप, सस्ते में मिल रहा है, बढ़ जाएगा. ऐसे नहीं होगा. We tried flipping the game. Sir, see gold as an investment. Sir, see gold as a saving. You can just like you do a RD, you can do the saving. So perspective change होता है. Similarly, for phone pay, we extract the different analogies which human were giving for them. We were doing the retention call कि स्मार्ट स्पीकर बेचा है, अब चल नहीं रहा है, मुझे मेरे पैसे कट रहे हैं, मुझे वापस कर दो. So our whole pipeline extracted the analogies and other important stuff, और उसी तरह से फिर उसने पिच बनाई. और देन ही सेज कि सर आप चाय पे 4 रुपए खर्च करते हो, यहाँ 2 रुपए खर्च कर लोगे तो कुछ नहीं जाएगा. अभी आप ये कि कोई भी आपने दुकान खोली हुई है, कोई पैसा नहीं देगा, फिर वो चला जाएगा, तो आपका 4 रुपए में कुछ नहीं जाता. तो जिस तरह से ह्यूमन सेल करता है, बेस्ट सेल्स पर्सन, वी लर्न फ्रॉम देम. So understand, sales is an art. It won't be solved by just prompting.
Uh, so the voice interface is the most advanced thing in computers right now. Like we can speak with computers through our human language and be able to convey our thoughts much faster. and it is with us, it is also giving much faster response and be able to come to point like how much understanding that we have, and able to continue from that. So it is able to converse with the humans like humans. Can it bring birds, animals, and can be able to converse with them and connect with humans and be able to bring them to the human economy and give them job and be able to place some orders, buy some things, and have job, have respect, have its own home, have its own community, education, all these things. Is it possible in near future?
I guess I'm
So
not the right person.
okay, so even see, I mean, interesting thought, but I mean, I've seen actually some of the videos, right, and some of the research around animal voices, and actually there are certain voices that certain species do create for certain situations. So possibility, maybe yes. Jobs, I don't know. I mean, but possibility of integrating more into human life. I mean, there are a lot of people who are very close to their pets, right? At least the dogs and the cats that we usually keep, and even able to get their emotions right out. It's a very good, interesting business idea, if you ask me. If you are able to get that right, you'll be able to sell that AI, whatever device that you'll be able to create to those, because they are very fond of their pets. So great idea, interesting thought. Some research around some species has gone. I cannot say specifically for dogs. I don't know, but yeah, possibility, yes.
And the best part is no evals can exist. So whatever you're saying, it's right.
Yeah. So we'll wrap up. We are at the end of the time. So I would like to thank all three of you for taking out time, traveling midday in Bangalore traffic. Dushyant, you have come from Delhi. So thanks to all three of you. Thanks to all the audience. Great questions. Thanks for your participation. And I want to thank the Magic Ball community for the great event. I think it was a lot of fun from the morning, and thanks to all of you.
What a great panel it is. Amazing insights given by them. And the conviction for the event, that's amazing too. Dushyant had flown from Delhi to Bangalore just for the event. So thank you, panelists. Let us give a huge round of applause for Ayush, Dushyant, Aman, and Abhishek.